Hello everyone, welcome back to the first Wednesday of summer. I usually try to do Wednesday videos and then I completely failed for months in a row. But it's summertime, so I'm going to try to get back into this and document some of the things that I've learned, as well as some things that I would like help from the audience with. So, today we're going to learn how to develop film in coffee. This is specifically a 16mm black and white film, so we will see how this goes. Before we actually get started into the developing notes, I want to make sure that you guys understand that I did not make this developing recipe. All I did was double it. The recipe that I followed was by Peter, and his recipe is here on his website. As you can also find it on Caffinol.com, which is where a lot of other coffee film developing resources are. But for Peter's, I just doubled all of the ingredients so that it fit 2 liters, which was the size of my Lomo tank, instead of the 1 liter that he made. So to do this, you're going to need instant coffee as well as crystal soda, vitamin C powder, specifically powder. If you get the tablets, sometimes they don't dissolve evenly, so I like the already powderized ones. Iodized salt, which is most salt at this point, and 2 liters of water. First, you're going to fill your bucket with 2 liters of water, around 23 degrees Celsius, and then you're going to want to add your 80 grams of instant coffee inside of it and stir until it's all dissolved. Next, you're going to want to add your 160 grams of washing soda and your 50 grams of salt, and then stir that until it's dissolved, so usually for around 3 minutes. And then finally, you're going to want to add your 40 grams of vitamin C powder. So this makes 2 liters of the solution, so obviously this depends on what kind of container you're developing your film in. I was using an old Lomo tank, so that's why I needed the 2 liters. Here's a copy of exactly what I did, but I made it so much more complicated than it needed to be. I used 2 different containers because I was worried of how they would interact, but later on found out I was overreacting, and you can just do it the way I described, and it works perfectly fine. So it's optional that you can give it a pre-bath. I always do it. It's a good habit to get in, but it's not necessary per se. Then you want to add your coffee mixture into the developing tank or bucket, depending on what you're using. We don't judge. And then make sure it's at 23 degrees Celsius. So leave in the developer or coffee mixture for about 13 minutes and agitate it every 30 seconds. With the Lomo tank, you just kind of spin the top part. It's kind of like a spinning top, very satisfying. But obviously it depends on what tank you're using, or if you're using a bucket, just kind of spin it around with your hands. I would recommend wearing gloves because this will dry out your hands very quickly. Warning! When we say to agitate the film, it means to stir, shake, or mix. Do not yell at your film to agitate it. The film may cry. Anyway, so after the 13 minutes, you want to pour out your developer or coffee mixture and then rinse the films. And then you want to add whatever fixer you're used to using. You can use homemade fixer for this, but if you're just testing it out, it's better to use something that's more constant. And then do your final rinse step. And then finally, you want to hang it to dry. Some people do like photo flow or like dish soap so that it dries evenly. So here's some of the results I got. It was for a film that I'm still editing and working on. But here are some clips that I got. This is some of the developing results. It was really high contrast, to be fair. Obviously, there's some inconsistencies and some mistakes that could have easily been on my part, or could have been inconsistencies with the developer. But you live and you learn. So breaking down the why you would use film developer when there's chemical developer that's perfectly good out there. So the first thing is the cost breakdown. So all of it together came out to around $34.95 Canadian. This is not including tax though, so depending on what province you're in, that'll change. Also depending if you're in Canada, because this is in Canadian dollars. So some of the benefits is that, unlike many chemical developers, Caffinol, or the actual name for coffee developer, can be poured safely down the drain. A lot of this stuff, like the chemical ones, are very corrosive, so they can ruin pipes. And it's not recommended if you put them back into the water system, if you live in like a town or a city where they recycle the water. Highly not recommended. So the downside is the mixture can only be used once, and it's only viable for about 30 minutes once mixed. So you can't make it in advance for too long. And once you have it, you have to use it quickly. So now the rest is up to you if you want to actually try out using this developer. I do highly recommend. It came out really high contrast. And honestly, there were a few imperfections, so if you're using it for like family weddings, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you're doing it for just photos that you take on a trip, it would be a really cool result to see. If you do develop using this process, please let me know. My Instagram is Morgan Landry Productions, and I would love to see what you create.